Hey guys, it's Tiffany, and we are doing our membership monthly Zoom call with human design analyst Leisha Barnett. And we're going to talk about circuitry today. So I'm personally really excited to learn alongside with you. And Leisha, you wanna get us started?
Let's do it.
Okay.
So yes, of course, I mean, we usually do a little human design as a system for making decisions as yourself. It's a lot of complex, detailed information that you can learn about for the rest of your life, but it also comes down to very simple strategy and authority for decision making. And it's really about, the awareness and operating correctly instead of from where we are not, because we didn't realize, our mechanics that are shown in the body graph. And so I love that it's just really practical and there's tools and you can just go out and try it. It's an experiment. No one's telling anyone to believe anything. It's not a belief system. You can only verify it, this logical mechanical system for yourself. So that's what I love. So just a quick intro. I know there's a lot of resources we have on what is human design if you're just coming into this, but yeah, anything else you want to add to that, Tiff, before we?
No, I think that's great. Yeah, circuitry.
Okay. So today we're talking about circuitry in the body graph, and I'm going to show you some images and the body graph, and then also kind of so we can see the circuitry. But first of all, what is circuitry in human design? It's basically when you look at the body graph, you see all 9 centers, which are evolved from the 7 chakra beings that we were a few hundred years ago for 90,000 years or whatever. It shows the way the energy circulates through kind of our being now, through our awareness, through our body, our physical body, through, kind of the way the life force moves through. It's a circuit board of the life force. I also love the kind of concept of it being like the infrastructure of the body graph. It's like the framework through which we can interpret this complex human being that we see in the body graph. With different gates activated, different channels, so the circuitry is almost more foundational than channels, gates, and all of that, because there's basically themes per circuit. There's only 4 circuits, really. There's 3 circuit groups, but one kind of special case that we'll look at as well, as far as a group of channels. So yeah, it's really like shows how we connect as humans on all the different levels. And we'll talk about those things. Really understanding circuitry, even before like channels and things like that, and specifics of gates, the understanding circuitry in your own body graph and mechanics, and also in those that you interact with, it kind of opens the door to understanding how we differentiate, because that's what human design is about, is how we are each unique, but also how we are designed to connect to each other. So if I have one type of circuitry, and Tiffany has that same type of circuitry, we will resonate, and we will be able to, because we'll be able to communicate and interact in a certain synergistic way. Versus if I have one circuitry and Tiffany has a different kind of circuitry, and we have nothing in common there, you've got to be aware of those differences so we can navigate that with awareness. Anything can be navigated with awareness. That's the key to everything. It doesn't mean you should, a tribal person should never date an individual, or be with like, it's not that. We can know those differences. That's what I love about human design. It shows us the language and the safe container through which we can both look at those differences and navigate them with awareness. And we can get things like I can get from Tiffany, who has individual circuitry and I have none. I can get this individual kind of frequency from her, this empowerment, which is a key word for individual that we'll go into. And if someone doesn't have any collective circuitry and that's all I have, then they can get this perspective and this frequency and this awareness through our interactions that they wouldn't get on their own. So that's the beauty of it. It's just when we don't know, we can run into, conflicts with it, or even, incompatibility and things like that, and basically conflicts. So looking at,
I like this part, because it's like, this is what circuitry helps me see is, especially with people that are very different from me, like my dad. We are as opposite beings as we could be design wise. I wouldn't have thought that. We're both Scorpios. We both like animal rescue. We have a dark sense of humor. We're both kind of shaman-y, psychic-y. We're both, like we like big trucks. Like we have a lot in common, but our designs I'm quad left, he's quad right. I'm an MG, he's a projector. He has only individual circuitry and I have multiple. So he's not here to be family, collective, tribal, let's have Norman Rockwell gatherings, right? I am. So I'm going to do that, but I'm not going to make him do that with me, you know? And so that's where circuitry starts to come alive for me. It's like, oh, you don't need that. And it's no fault. And it doesn't matter that you don't want to hang out in the same way that I want to hang out. How can I support you and you're doing what you want to do and also not look for bread at the hardware store, right? Like, so I just wanted to throw that in there. I won't keep interjecting.
Well, I love that point though, because it's like, that's what, kind of this journey, this human design journey is you find your mechanics, you see your circuitry, you start to see those differences of how, Tiffany is collective, individual, and tribal. And her dad is only individual, like 2 channels and they're both individual. So you can be aware of that. And then the deconditioning process, keyword process over time, is kind of the unwinding of like the wounding that might have occurred from that, the way that it felt personal, the childhood impact of, having that as a parent, that kind of thing. So it's almost like you become aware of the mechanics and the differences, but then you sort of have to go through the process of all of that kind of rewiring and clearing out. So that's kind of the deconditioning part of that. It's like, that logically now, you can see that in your mechanics with your dad, but like, then there's the journey of, of getting through kind of the way that set up the psychology for each of us,
without being super weird about it. Well, Dad, you only have individual circuitry.
Yes. Yes.
No, yeah, I'm not going to be saying that. I'm just aware. And then I can come to our group, our little safe place, and be able to talk about it or text, Alicia and say, hey, this is what I've got going on. And what do you think? And look at the circuitry that way. So, yeah. Okay. So now we're dying to know what are the circuits.
Well, let's get into it. So the circuitry, I guess I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that I can kind of point to what we're looking at here. Oops, do you mind giving me that?
Oh,
I don't know if I can yet.
Multiple.
But the circuitry is basically, if you look at your body graph, which I'll show you, it's composed of a set of channels. So there's different circuitry. There's actually, I'll go ahead and name it. There's individual, tribal, and collective circuitry. And then there's these integration channels, which have this kind of special thing to them that we'll talk about. And they're often called circuitry, but they're not technically circuitry. So basically a collection of channels that have the same frequency and language that you can use. Like Tiffany was saying, you wouldn't go to your dad and say, well, your individual circuitry and like in your body graph, like you're speaking human design now. Everyone doesn't speak human design. It's a special language. It's a certain language that has its own meanings that don't mean the same thing in English and sound like gobbledygook to a lot of people that don't know human design language. But it's like if you're an astrophysicist and you tried to go have like an astrophysicist conversation with, your parent or somebody you met on the street or whatever, like it doesn't work, but you can know that language. And then each circuit group has specific language. So for example, Tiffany's, sharing about her dad, it's like, he's individual. He's about empowerment. So my dad's the same way. He is only individual. I have not one individual channel. So I'm about collective. Sharing is like the kind of the keynote. And I'll talk about that. And an individual circuitry person is about empowerment, being themselves, mutating. It's not always comfortable on the other side of that, but that's what they're here to do. So Tiffany might start to use that language of like, I told my dad this after learning human design and knowing those differences. I just said, you know what, Dad, I thank you so much for expressing what you thought. It really, I feel empowered by what you said to me, by you sharing. And so he was like, wow, that's like the sweetest thing like you've ever said to me, because it speaks to our DNA. I'm speaking to who he actually is. So like this, that's what I love about this language is you don't have to know human design, but you can start to use some of these keynotes and bridge the gap and navigate that awareness, whether they're aware of it or not. They may not know human design or speak any of this. So yeah, that's so each circuitry group is a group of channels. So let me show my screen. to kind of show what I'm talking about here. So this is my body graph. Okay, and actually it's at mybodygraph.com. You can go there and get a free, there's a free version. I have some different paid features, so you may see some things on mine that are that different. But yeah, so you can see here that here's the body graph. There's the lines between these two centers. These hubs are centers, and these numbers are gates. And so when a gate is activated in a center, and then the other gate is activated, you get a channel. Now, a group of channels are what makes up the circuitry. So I have an image that I'll refer back to a few times, but just as a quick thing, I have this one channel right here. That's all I got. Okay, I have other gates, so they'll express in different ways with different transits that are activated with different people. Like if I'm around Tiffany and she has the other end of a gate, well, we get to form a whole new frequency together, a whole third being, but collective is the only channel I have. I'm about sharing, and guess what? It's logic, and it's about understanding logical patterns. And so that's all I got. That's what I'm here to do. Share logical patterns for well-being to take us into the future. Because it's spleen, right? Well-being. So just to give a glimpse, because we'll kind of weave back and forth, but basically different channels are grouped together in these circuits. Okay, so I'm going to back up just a little bit. The circuitry that we have makes up our definition. So I'm going to pull Tiffany, I know we like to share both of ours. Tiffany has one of each circuit. So she has an individual, one tribal channel, and one collective channel. So it's a great example. So we see her all these different, channels in her. Basically, the resulting frequency from the way the flow of life force moves through, for example, Tiffany that we're looking through here, through her individual gates and channels, through her collective, through her tribal, that frequency, like the amalgam of all of that, is basically projected or communicated through our auras. So it's not like Tiffany knows she's an individual and collective and tribal, and so she's saying anything. It does determine what she says and expresses and how she sees things, but it literally, Tiff could be sitting there and you feel this auric impact, and it influences our conditions or other people that are around us. So okay, so then of course anywhere we're defined is like it's our gifts in this life. It's what we're here to do and be and share to others when we're cleaned up, not the distorted version, because most of the world is in this distortion because they don't know, they're mechanics, and they don't know these concepts. So it shows our gifts. It also shows the limitations. So the fact that Tiffany is like here to transmit the message to the tribe for the good of the tribe, which is this channel 2644, is like her gift. It's also the limitation. She can't not do that. She can't see, every single thing that someone with nothing in this channel could see. Okay, so that's just kind of peppering things in. Okay, so and then the definition is our reason for incarnating in this life. Like that's what we see there. So the circuits are made up of, let's go back to this for a minute. There's a special set. I wonder if I can zoom this a little bit.
I mean, that's great.
Yeah, you can see it. Okay, because I want to talk about, can you not see it well now?
It's just cut off now.
Oh, well, then let me just
But I want to understand about this graphic. It's like there's 4 columns and 3 rows.
Okay.
So what's
let me
the
explain.
first
Yes.
row?
Good idea. So these are the 3 circuit groups: individual, collective, and tribal. Those are the circuits.
Okay.
Often though, this is called an integration circuit. If you see, it's actually individual. It's within individual. See this, like it's almost like a backbone of the entire body graph. That's kind of this structure. And so it's actually it's in the individual circuit group, but it's like a separate, it's called the integration channels. And you see there's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think there's 6 different channels within this.
Does anybody have that?
Shelly has one of those channels. Yes, I think you have the 3457, right? Is that the one?
So would you say
I have, yeah, 3457.
Shelly has this one. Yeah, go ahead, Tiff.
Would you say she has integration circuitry just because of that one, or does she need all those black lines?
No, she has individuals. She has integration circuitry because of that one. And it's individual though. So really, ultimately, it's about, you see these main keywords here for each circuitry.
Yeah.
So individual is about empowerment, and I'll say more about that. Collective is about sharing. As I shared with my example, I have one channel, it's collective. Shelley has, I think, 3 channels, but 2 of them are individual. So she's very individual. That's mutative. And like I said, mutation's not always comfortable for the other. Empowerment is not always comfortable, but that's not the point. So
and she might find herself in situations that are mutative, that are uncomfortable for her, too.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, it goes all the way around. Yes.
Yeah.
The key words can kind of, it's like they're not even directional. It's like they're the keywords that will be the experience and what others get from you too. You'll feel that in your own life. And I have some examples of that, especially around the difference between individual and these self-empowerment integration channels within the individual. And then the key word for tribal is support. Okay, so just individuals about the one person in a way, right? Like, is that person being authentically them and following their convictions and all of these things? That will empower others and they will be empowered. The collective is about sharing. I share what I see logically or abstract. Okay, so we'll go into that. Tribal is kind of like the smaller family or community. And it's like the bedrock of what humanity is kind of built on, right? Like bargains and things like that. So that's about support. And we'll go into that a little bit. So that's kind of explaining. There's the 3 main circuit groups, but then there's kind of this integration one that is very notable within individual.
And now what are the rows about?
So within individual circuitry, okay, this is the entire, so if you look at the body graph, you can see it's like, it's the inside track, right? So it's in the middle, in the middle, in the middle. It's going all the way down the middle here. So if you look at a body graph, you can go, oh, I see I have a lot of middle circuitry here. That's individual. That's how I remember it when I look at it. It's like almost like held within the tribe and collective, like the individual, right? So it kind of makes sense a little bit. So within the individual circuit, which is all of this, there's some minor circuits. So there's the knowing circuit, which you see goes straight down the middle and on the edges, but it's not like these 2. And then there's this other little minor circuit that's called the centering circuit, and I'll kind of talk about what that means. So it's basically like within individual, and it just gives us more keynotes, more specific words to help us understand ourselves and others and to navigate with language. So Shelley has, 2 individual channels. I know one is a 6124, so that's the knowing circuit. Shelley, were you going to say something? I saw you go. Whoop.
Oh, I was trying to see, so I think I have a tribal,
yes,
and an individual, and a integration.
Yeah, you have an yes. So that's really 2 individual, but yes, 1 integration individual, because the integration is within individual.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I take care of me and my own, but I don't have to share anything.
Yeah, you're not here to always share. I mean, there's gates that'll be activated.
So me, my own, all that.
Yep, empowered within
Whoever's
yourself.
in my tribe, right?
Yeah. So you can start to listen to your own language and listen for words that are similar to empower, or when you feel empowered. You can start to listen about how support is important to you, and you'll be like communicating about that, and you'll be thinking about that and seeing that, Okay, so then within collective, there's 2 minor circuits. Now you can see this is on the right side, except that it kind of it bloops over here and it bloops over here, but it's on the right side, and that's sensing or abstract. It goes through the solar plexus, and solar plexus is about feeling and experiencing. It's a desire for experiences, and it doesn't make sense till it's done. It's abstract. It's not a logical predictive pattern we can go into the future with. This is past. This is reflective. It's like after it happened, then you can look back and go, oh, okay, that makes sense. I get that. It's not logical. But if you have logical, the logic is on the left side here. It's the splenic, like logical awareness. What is the pattern for the future? It's kind of predicting what makes sense that could happen in the future in this pattern. So if somebody has logical circuitry, which that's my only channel, very logical. I have gates that are abstract and tribal and everything else, but my consistent definition is about, I want to understand, which is kind of a process over time. I want to understand it, and I want to find the logical pattern for well-being, to take me into the future, to take others that I can share with the collective that will take it, you know, share what I found, share discoveries, opinions, medical breakthroughs, whatever. It's like, and collective, well, I'm going off on tangents. Tribal is about support, and there's 2 circuitry groups within that. And so what I love this example. So tribal defense is about producing offspring and caring for them. And you can, I read this analogy once, it looks like a little cradle. So it's like, you know, this is the channel of mating, this is the channel of custodianship. So that makes sense, right? It's like people that have any activations in these are going to feel that, you know, that the particular flavor and frequency of that gate or that channel. And that it is about defense and defending the tribe and caring for them, making sure they have resources, all of that. Ego it's almost like it is holding the cradle in a way. And it is more about the material needs of the tribe and the bargains. I mean, all of tribal is about bargains and trades, what makes sense. Our whole society is built on trades and bargains, and, you know, you give, you know, I work this amount, you give me this money, or like I have these benefits, or we, you know, we're together, I'll go out and, you know, I'll go make the money, you take care of the house and the kids. I mean, these are tribal concepts, not like, you know, not a modern take on them. It's just so yes. So tribal, so within each of these, so these are the main 3 circuits at the top. Within that, there's 2 circuits, you know, minor circuits that are in the major circuit groups.
Gotcha.
And remember, this one goes into individual, really.
Yes.
So that's kind of looking at this chart. Okay.
Before you go on, Kendra has a question in the chat.
Yes.
She's got the 4130. So she's thinking she's abstract collective, and she's saying that she doesn't really know things until after the fact, and then she gets the
Yeah.
I can relate to that because I have the gate of confusion before completion. Looks like maybe you're going to show. Yeah. And so there's a lot of times I'm like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. It makes sense. Like now that I got the order of it right. But until it's in some kind of order, I'm like, nope, way too abstract.
Which
like,
it is in the abstract. See, it flips over. So you notice it's on the right side. It takes me a minute to get, it took me a minute to get used to it. And then it flips over for the head and the root. That's kind of just, it goes whoop, 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 and then goes back over. But yeah, that's an abstract. So it doesn't make sense till you finish, which is, you know, it's an interesting trip, right? To experience that, especially as a quad left, which Tiffany is, who is like planning. Every element of her is planning, seeing the steps, strategic, you know, sees 17 steps down the road, and yet she's got this abstract mind process, you know. So there's always these kind of special combinations in the chart, dilemmas potentially, or the point is you see the dilemma, you start to work with it, watch it, surrender to it, stop being anything else, and you start to love that. You're like, oh yeah, I'm confused before the thing. That's standard. I'll know once I do it though, it'll be great. And we always joke because Tiffany's like, confused, you know, I'm confused, but here's all these ideas and what do you think? And we finally get to a workshopped idea, and then she's like, here, I'll go and finish it, and then you can like be confused about it after, or you can doubt it after we finish it. So she has the confusion before completion, and I have the like doubt after it's done. So it's like we make this, it's a human design joke, we make a lot.
Or like really I was texting with April about an idea the other day, and so April is quad right, I'm quad left, right? And she was talking, like we were trying to come up with a new way to talk about some of her sessions, and I'm like listing it all out, and I'm like, I've got bullet points and ideas and and she's like, no, I don't know. She's like, I'm gonna ask the records. I'm like, that is so quad right, and what I was doing was so quad left, and it's like it takes it all before we come up with something. So it's neat to work with everybody's strengths and just to see each other, you know, it's through these lenses of circuitry and variables. Sorry.
Yes. Well, and that's a great example of the gifts and the limitations. Like it is a gift to have a quad left person. It is like so organized. They're thinking of every step. I didn't think of all the stuff. I'm half left and half right. And then, but like, it's a gift, but it's also a limitation. Like you can't just pull from the depths. Whereas April can't necessarily, maybe she's not like loves thinking 15 steps up and back, and like it might go against her nature a little bit to do that. But when we combine and interact with awareness, we get all these additional gifts from the other person. So I love that example. Okay, so let's kind of look at, I want to start with the integration self-empowerment. So it's not just empowerment, it's self-empowerment. And this is, you know, I'm not going to name all these channels, but basically like you can look at your chart and you can see, I know this graphic is on the Wise Skies Facebook group, and I imagine we'll put it other places that you can find it. You can probably see it on this video too. And I have a screenshot of this just like easily accessible, because I like to refer to it often because it's underneath even the specific of the channels or gates. Like you can see a lot by just going, oh, I'm tribal, they're collective, whoa, you know. Okay, so this is not really a circuit, as we said, it's just a group of channels within this individual thing, but they are really noteworthy in that they're almost like the core of evolution in a way. Like it's like how we differentiated from our primate ancestors. It's like it fuels the evolutionary process of humanity, person by person. Like if someone has, so one of my mom had three of these channels. My oldest child has 3 of these channels, and it is huge. Like they need to be, there's almost like a self-sufficiency there, a self assuredness sort of thing. It's like, it doesn't really, anybody with self-empowerment should be encouraged. Like if you have a child with an integration channel, any integration channel, they should be encouraged to be self-sufficient. So I've started using with my 14-year-old, I want you to be empowered in yourself to manage that. I don't want to have to like ask you about homework. Like you just tell me what I can do to support you, because they also have tribal circuitry, my child. And so that's about like support. And I use that language and I say, what bargain feels good to you? Like, would $25 for doing this thing feel good? Or like whatever. Oh, all about the bargains, you know? My other kid has collective and individual. He don't care about a bargain. He is not tribal. He is not tribal at all. So it's just, it's fascinating to see it in real life. But this self-empowerment. So if you are a parent or a partner or a friend or whatever they have this integration circuitry, it's about being self-empowered. And that is mutated to others. Again, not always comfortable and not always easy as a partner, parent, whatever, right? So you just kind of got to start working with it and have the awareness. Yeah, Shelley.
What you're saying, like as you talking to your child that you want to foster self-empowerment, those are things I say to my kids, and they may not need to hear it, but that's me talking, like being self-empowered. So I guess I should figure out what they need to hear.
Yes.
Because I'm like, oh, whatever you need.
I have
like,
a nuance
I don't need to hear your emails from your teachers after 6th grade. You can handle it all on your own. But that's me talking.
Okay, thank you for that. I have the chills, because that's such an important point. One, I would definitely look and see if they, because they may be sharing because they have 3 collective channels and they want to share with you, or tribal and they want to get support or whatever. And that's not your natural, you are very individual. But what I learned recently in this partnership class that I took for human design, but they can get that self-empowerment by being around you. So they get more self-empowered in themselves. They don't have that circuitry, but they get to feel a mom who is self-empowered and encouraging that in them. And so it's this, like, they don't need to like force that or be that or whatever. And they may also want support and to share, but we get that from each other. So like when I'm talking to you or April, who has like several of these integration channels, I'm like, oh my God, like I really feel that sense of like, that you love and empower yourself, and you're going to say what, you're going to kind of do you in a way. And I get to receive that for me, even though I don't have that circuitry, that channel, those channels. So yes, I think looking like, being aware of when you're saying like, I care about support because I'm tribal and I'm saying a lot of support and trying to make bargains, but they're not tribal, versus when are they getting that frequency that is mutated and enhancing and something that they wouldn't get otherwise. So that's why we interact, is because we get all these different things that we can't have on our own, you know.
But I
So I
would
love that
add,
point.
like that's like the biggest gift is I don't parent my kids the way that nobody is like me remotely. I mean, I'm sure that that's the case in every situation, but I'm very, very, very different than my kids, my dad, my partner, my friend. Like I'm very different. And so if I had the expectation that she should be like me, then I'm setting everybody up for failure, because she should not be like me. She should rest more. She should not start 8 businesses, you know. She should share. She should be called out for what she's naturally talented at. I should not, you know. I have a different way of being. And so I think, you know, I really relate to what you're saying, Shelley, because I would just let everybody off the hook and all my expectations went out the window, and then there's no fault living, and we could just love each other instead of, you know, try to fix the mirror just right. Like, it's like, no, like my kids, I mean, it's just amazing to watch what happens in her life when I'm not trying to make her be an MG. You know, I wish I had known sooner, but I found out when I found out, so it must have been perfect, right? And anyways, yeah.
Oh, I have the chills.
Yeah.
So, and my 14-year-old I could literally probably do an hour on just because he had sensory processing disorder, like all these occupational therapy. We did all this stuff with human design. All that's gone away. Nervous system regulated, manages their own schoolwork and like things. And I mean, the self-empowerment word language I'm speaking to him is, I mean, it's a totally different kid, you know, it's a totally different kid. And so, but it's an unwinding and a process from all the winding up that we, you know, when we didn't know. So yeah, no fault living, just start from now, because this is the perfect time. I think my partner says, yeah, the perfect time would have been then, but the next best time is now, because we didn't get then. So next best time to do it is right now.
There's one day or day one, right?
Yeah, exactly. Totally. So the self-empowerment, something that is kind of like, it's like, I love myself and I empower anybody with integration circuitry. This is kind of the concept. I love myself and I empower myself by listening to my intuition in the now, or through response, I'm intuitively equipped with the right behavior to survive any circumstance in the now. Integration circuitry channels are more about now. It's not emotionally defined, right? It's not about time or wave. It's like right now, what I'm doing, I feel it, I'm doing it, like I'm following my convictions, like that's all I know. It's almost like not even thinking, you know? Okay, to kind of expand to the rest of the individual circuitry, the knowing, the centering circuit. So again, we see the integration circuitry here, the channels, all these channels. The rest are, you know, also individual, and that's empowerment, right? But it's not so much focused on like the right now, the intuition right now of my own behavior and my own thing. It's more kind of like it's like this pulse. It's like the way that it works is like, I don't know. Oh, I know. And you can't control or predict when that knowing will happen, especially the knowing circuit. It's just that it's like, it's a pulse. You know, you're not going to know. Oh, I know, you know? And so let me find my spot. I lost where I was. So back to the individual circuitry is about empowerment. It's mutation. For me, I've had friends that had the 6124. Shelley, you have that channel. Is very individual. It's like an antenna up to like shit that the rest of us can't access, at least not consistently. It's like this,
Callie has that.
Like way up there. Yeah, Shelley has that.
Callie
But I had, oh, who? Callie?
It's unconscious though.
So that's a different, yeah.
It's unconscious.
Yeah, that's a different thing. But I had a friend who had this channel, and she would start to express things, and it's like it almost didn't matter because I'm like, oh, I want to share it, like I have something, and it's like and it's like, I'm going to express like, no. It's not interested in others' perspectives, not in a judging way. It's just, that's what individualism is. It's like, I know, and I don't really need, like, you might as well just be quiet and let them know and let them express is what is surrendered to me, for me to do. And because otherwise I'm trying to like push against somebody that knows that they know in their being and they need to express it. And that, so my point with that friend is that I would leave and I'd be like, oh, like she's so certain, you know, because she's defined ajna, she's so certain, but it doesn't feel right to me. But like, then for weeks afterward, I'd be like, okay, well, what is it in me that's reacting to that? What is really underneath that? And oh my God, and I would end up so mutated and empowered, even though it was uncomfortable with this friend for months, but I would end up mutated and empowered. And that's just, it's not always pleasant, but that is the purpose of the individually defined person, you know? Okay. There's also, yeah.
My dad and daughter have that. And I like what I can relate to. It's like on the other side of them, there's a lot of like, good for you. Like, yes. Towards me, like, oh, you think that? I don't care. You know?
They're like, well, I know. So whatever you're saying is kind of cool.
Cool.
That's my experience of that channel and that knowingness. And my dad only has the 4323, which is this one. And so he's only individual, which is structuring and like and I mean, that it cleared up so much understanding for me. And it is empowering because he's just going to follow his own thing, you know? And there's a very, like, it's about acoustics. Any individual, if you have individual circuitry, acoustics are important. Like, see if, you know, whether it's listening to music, a certain tone of voice, a certain acoustic, you know, phenomena in the environment, or like, you know, what you may notice that you're particular about certain acoustics, or you're drawn to certain acoustics. And so just to say something to watch, the word, people's words that they use, the tone of their voice. I definitely noticed that with the integration channel individual, like my child and my partner. They're like, your tone of voice. And I'm like, what are you talking about? But it's like, they're so individual. There's like a sensitivity to that.
Can I get that in flat, please? How about an F sharp? Not just
exactly. Let me tune my throat for a second. But I'm not individual, so I have other like acoustic things, but it's not the same attunement. Shelley, our word attunement from earlier. It's not the same attunement as someone that has individual circuitry. There's also melancholy with individual circuitry, and so anybody that's defined solar plexus or has individual circuitry, which is a lot of channels. I mean, look at that. That is a lot of channels. There's a melancholy, and it's part of the chemistry. And so accepting that it's like, oh, I'm in a melancholic place. I might need alone time. I might want to go create. And there's nothing wrong. It doesn't need to be defined. There are no reasons need to be found for it. No pills. Well, I mean, I'm not going to say that because there's a lot of, but you know, we don't need to be fixed. You know, it's mainly, let me honor the melancholy and find a way to use that as a muse to create, to be alone, to read, to write, to whatever, listen to music, make music, whatever. That is the true purpose of the melancholy. And it's just accepting that it's your chemistry. Nothing needs to be fixed or brought back up, you know, from the melancholy.
I want to make sure everybody has time to ask their questions about their chart. If you guys have specific questions, and or if you want Leisha to take a look at your chart or help you see your circuitry, we could do that. And I also, you started to talk about definition a little bit, and I didn't know if you wanted to do that or if it's a separate topic. I think you were just saying the circuitry is what identifies what definition you are.
Yeah. Your definition, of course, is all the colored in areas. But so, for example, your definition of the channel of surrender, we know that definition is tribal. So even before we look at the channel of surrender, design of a transmitter, the egoist, and the coming to meet, like in each gate and all that stuff, we can go, oh, okay, well, Tiffany, that is in the ego circuit. So it's about material goods, resources, right? Things like that. For the tribe, it's about supporting the tribe with material resources. Um,
matches my astrology. You have a Virgo
100%.
midheaven.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
It all like ends up like fitting together so perfectly.
Mhm.
And I want to look up the ego one to add some more keynotes. It's about support. It's a protective. Remember, we said it kind of holds the cradle, right? So it's like this protective, like energy in a way, which I totally get from Tiff. It's like, this kind of, I got to make sure people have what they need. I found this idea. I got to share it. Like I want to, sharing is a collective thing. She also has collective circuitry, but I need to support them with this. I need this support. This is what trade feels good. I don't have tribal circuitry. I have tribal gates though, and they're in my incarnation cross, which means it's a huge part of my expression. But when I'm communicating with Tiffany, I know she wants to feel support. She offers so much support. Maybe she offers so much support, she doesn't feel supported sometimes. So as a friend, like I'm aware of that. And I make sure to, to kind of not use that, but to like take that into account in our friendship, So it's almost like it is the definition. You can go the foundational thing under whatever channel you have and gate specifics and all that. What circuitry is it? Because that's going to tell you a lot. You could just have that and have a huge awareness. The other thing with tribal, just to mention, is touch is very important. So I don't have tribal circuitry, but there's other elements that touch is important. But like, for my kids that have tribal circuitry, my one kid, it's like, I want to make sure that I, touch the arm or like, of course I ask first and all of that, but like ask if I can give a hug and like, there's a touch element to that can make them feel very supported. Okay, yes. Does anyone want to ask some questions? I definitely can go on and on about this. So I'm happy to do either way. The tribal, the bargain thing, it's like, I'll scratch my back if you scratch, I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine, that kind of thing. But it's not a using or a tit for tat. It's the nature of humanity and how the species works together, if you think about it. Yes, can I share my chart and see if I have the collective? Yeah, let's see it, Kendra, for sure. I'd love to see it.
I have it on multiple participants can share. Kendra has started.
Oh yeah, you could share.
Yeah, and it's not the other graphic. I've got this graphic, so it might look a little different, but
okay, we can look at it. That's fine.
Woo!
So yeah, I was seeing that 41.
Do you want me to stop
30.
sharing?
So if you go to view options at the top, you can see shared screens, and I selected Kendra's. I don't know if everybody has to do that, but I did it and I can see it. At the very top.
I'm going to stop sharing. Let me see. Oh, there, now I see it. Okay, weird. I wonder if it was just because I was sharing.
You were sharing, maybe.
Okay, so yeah, let me see here, Kendra. So you definitely have tribal 59.6.
Okay, so then I was thinking that the tribal and the collective doesn't seem like there's a lot of individual in this.
And you have you have two tribal channels and two collective channels, because the 59.6 and the 40.37, and then you have the 41.30 and the 7.31, which are both collective.
Got it.
And 41 is in your personality sun, so that's huge. I will say we should get you a my body graph version, because or a genetic matrix version, which I can totally, whatever, we can send you
to look at.
Well, and this particular resource for human design is known for being incorrect, giving incorrect information, because it markets well and things. A lot of it's correct. I think this is the one. Yeah. Like Shores is not a melting pot. The environment, no. So there's some stuff. Anyway, this particular one is known, just to give you the cautionary thing, but you can still do strategy and authority are going to definitely, that's still true.
And while we're in her chart, she's in between her design date and her birth date. Do you want to get
yes.
a nugget?
Yes. So yes. So I had not been aware of this for like years of doing human design, but I had heard something a while back, but it was confirmed recently that between your design date and your birth date every year, that is not when big decisions should be made, because it's almost like the design has already had a solar return. And so there's kind of some mechanical things going on there, but the personality side hasn't. So you've got your personality and design side, right? So one side has already almost like shifted designs. It's not the way to say it, but there's mechanical elements that have already changed, but the personality hasn't done that yet. And so the combination there is, it's not distorted. It's like in transition. It's still like flipping over. So I was like, oh, wow, cool. Cause I just made a bunch of decisions. I'm in between mine too. It's 3 months. That's a long time to not make decisions. But yeah, just something to play with and experiment with and see if it feels true or what you notice,
Sure.
And the other cool thing about your design and birth date, Kendra, is that the HD New Year doesn't start until late January.
Yes.
So I would be curious if you were slogging through January and January 1st was like, ugh.
This isn't the beginning.
Yeah. And then maybe by the end of January, you're like, I'm ready for this year. I know what I want to do. I'm seeing the vision. It's clear, but it's not until late January, February. Does that resonate?
I think so. And just starting, well, and my birthday's at the end of January too. So I always feel a little kickstart. And the astrology that we've been going over too is, coming through into the February. And so I think that's like a double whammy where I really feel, in the forefront. I think those two things, if my human design supports it, the astrology would just add an extra kick to that. So I'll have to see how I feel in journal, but yeah, that's good insight.
Yeah, human design, the calendar year is just a calendar that actually doesn't have like mechanically in the cycles of the way that the planets and the gates and all that with it, which is also the astrology. Although you guys would probably be able to say the specifics about astrology, but the human design solar new year is 4 weeks into January, as Tiff was saying. So actually collectively, of course, I'm going to share that, right? Collectively, that's why everyone, there's the whole kind of myths and jokes around New Year's resolutions, because January 1st is an arbitrary calendar day that actually doesn't even fit with the way that the cycles are moving planetarily. So we've been, kind of playing with that the last few years, is let's actually celebrate it on January 23rd or whatever the date is. So I'm definitely curious how that being your birthday, how that has, what you observe over time with kind of that.
Interesting. Well, I'm looking forward to later on this month where I'm going to get some extra sessions, and Spirit spoke to me. My full moon reading was just on point. So I'm excited upcoming so we can dive.
Yes. Sounds great.
I love it.
Thanks for looking at it.
Thanks for sharing.
Shadow period starts at the end of summer. So when everybody's like back to school, I'm like, is it? Are we? Don't want to wait.
Yeah, because wait, yours is what, August through? You're in yours right now because your birthday's
I'm in mine right now.
up.
Yeah, I'm almost there. So August 9th through November 7th for me.
Yeah, that's right. 4 days till Tiffany's birthday.
Yay!
Okay. Yeah. Anybody else want to share one? One of their, not one, your chart?
Maybe they're individual and we don't need to.
I ain't gonna mutate them. They don't mutate me.
Well, it's like when you start looking at all the elements, it hurts my brain because I'm like, what was my takeaway from that, right? And so the takeaway from circuitry, I could be wrong, come up with your own decisions here, but it's like, here's a human body. We could be talking about cells, we could be talking about neural pathways, we could be talking about lymphatic systems, right? But circuitry is like head, torso, root. It's like it gives you a chunk of something to deal with. So I might have a lot to talk about in the torso. I might talk about heart issues, I might talk about lungs, I might talk about the respiratory system, I might talk about ribs. There's a lot, but it falls under a chunk, right? And so that's how I have it in my mind. It's like there's a couple of different chunks and they're all needed. And fortunately I have all of them.
Yes, you have one of each, which even just right now of you kind of restating that, and it's very like transmitter 2644, like for the good of the tribe, I'm going to repackage this message and say clearly what it is, which also goes into your other channels. But yeah, that's exactly it. It's almost like foundationally, even under channels and stuff, and if you get a reading, like the language of your circuitry is woven in very purposefully. So you may not be like, oh, I'm tribal, but I usually say this is a tribal channel. It's about support, but anyway, it's woven in, and that's the whole point. Is this language is kind of the most important thing. Yeah, chunking it. I love that.
Yeah, and how it works with your people, right? Like,
yes.
It's so cool.
I have a little quote to end us on, or we can pop it into the chat or whatever.
Yeah.
I was trying to share it, but I don't know if I can. It's the founder of Human Design. He says, there's truly magic in the world, and it's not something that I would have ever believed. The magic is in who we are, embedded into our own marvelous bodies like a rich vein of gold, just waiting to be discovered. When we find this magic and tap into its power, it's as if we're suddenly plugged into life at last. Finally, we can live our greatness in peace, in grace, in power by living our design. And so I love that it's like this whole, like, the mundane is the magical and the magic is in the mundane. And that's where all this shows up. It's like the language and the actual seeing of these mechanics and navigating with awareness. And it's all in the little everyday little things that's how we're living life. That's where the actual experiential stuff happens. So we can get it in logic. It's like we get the logic of life, but it actually is lived out in the experiences. So I just love that quote, because it's like the mundane is the magical and the magical is the mundane. So that's what we deal with all the time, the mundane. So that's it.
Thanks, Lisa. All right,
I think we're complete.
Well, thank you for everybody coming live and exploring. It's meant to be a workshop with support, with questions. And so thank you for sharing, and because we all learn more when we're looking at each other. And anybody that's watching the replay, if you need help, just email us hello@wiseguyscollective.com, and we'll make sure you understand your circuitry. Yay, Kendra says thank you, wonderful workshop today. It was great lunch break. I feel like I understand it better. Good. So thank you, and guys, have a great November 3rd.
Bye.
Bye. Love you.